Delivery jobs are supposed to be simple. Pick up a package, drop it off, don't ask questions. But on the deep web, some deliveries come with instructions that don't make sense, addresses that don't exist, and packages that were never meant to be opened. In this video, you'll hear 3 scary horror stories about deep web deliveries, told by people who thought they were just doing quick jobs, until something went very wrong. If you enjoy horror stories like this, like the video and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel even more, super thanks are always appreciated.
I've worked the gig economy for about 6 years now. If there is an app for it, I have it on my phone. Rideshare, food delivery, grocery shopping, moving helper, you name it. But the problem with those apps is the saturation. Everyone is doing it, and the pay gets sliced thinner and thinner every year. When you live in a city where rent eats 70% of your income, you start looking for alternatives. You start looking for the side hustles that don't advertise on billboards. I found the forum on an invite-only message board. It wasn't a dark website exactly, but you had to know where to look. The section was called Logistics for the Discerning. Most of the jobs were sketchy but harmless, driving a suitcase of cash across state lines, delivering prescription meds without a script. I did a few of those. Easy money. Then, last Tuesday, a new listing popped up. It was highlighted in red. Urgent. Temperature-controlled transport required. Nevada to Oregon. Single unit. $5,000 flat rate. Cash upon arrival. $5,000 for a 12-hour drive. I didn't hesitate. I messaged the user, logistics_king, and within 30 seconds, I had coordinates for a pickup location and a time, 2 a.m. The location was a storage facility way out in the desert, about an hour outside of Vegas. When I pulled up in my cargo van, the place was pitch black except for a single flickering bulb over Unit 404. A man was waiting there. He was huge, easily 6'5", wearing a fit canvas jacket despite the desert heat. He didn't speak. He just pointed to a large, white industrial cooler sitting on the concrete. It was one of those high-end marine coolers, the kind deep-sea fishermen used to keep tuna frozen for days. It was secured with heavy-duty zip ties and a padlock. The guy helped me lift it into the back of my van. It was impossibly heavy, shifting slightly as we moved it. A sloshing sound came from inside, thick and viscous. "Don't open it," the man finally grunted. His voice sounded like gravel grinding together. "Keep the AC on max. If the temperature gauge on the lid goes above 40 degrees, you lose the fee. If you open it, you lose a lot more than money." He slapped the side of my van, and that was it. I was on the road. The first few hours were fine. The desert at night is peaceful. I had a podcast playing, the AC was blasting freezing air into the back, and I was mentally spending that $5,000. But as the sun started to rise, painting the sky in bruised purples and oranges, things started to feel wrong. It began with a smell. I was somewhere in the desolate stretch of northern Nevada. A faint odor drifted from the back of the van. It wasn't the smell of rotting food. It was something sweeter, copper-like. It smelled like a butcher shop that hadn't been cleaned in a week. I glanced in the rearview mirror. The cooler sat there, ominous and white in the shadows. I checked the digital thermometer taped to the lid. 36 degrees. It was holding steady. I tried to ignore the smell, cracking my window to let in the dry morning air. But an hour later, the sound started. It was quiet at first. So quiet I thought it was just the tires humming on the asphalt. Scritch. I turned the radio. Down. Silence. Then again. A scritch. It was coming from inside the cooler. My heart hammered against my ribs. What the hell was in there? My mind instantly went to the worst-case scenarios. Was I smuggling an exotic animal? A tiger cub? A chimp? The pay would make sense for that. but the scratching sounded rhythmic, deliberate. That wasn't an animal. That was a pattern. I pulled over. I was on a strip of highway with nothing but sagebrush for miles. I needed to know. I walked to the back of the van, the smell now so strong it made my eyes water. I grabbed a crowbar from my toolkit. I stood over the cooler, my hand trembling. The temperature gauge read 38 degrees. Rising, I put my ear against the cold plastic lid. "Please," a voice whispered. I jumped back, tripping over my own feet and landing hard on the metal floor. It was a man. There was a man inside that box. "Hello," I stammered, my voice cracking. "Air," the voice rasped. "Running out of air." I didn't think. Instinct took over. I jammed the crowbar into the padlock hasp and twisted. I broke the zip ties. I threw the lid open. The smell hit me like a physical blow. Inside, curled into a tight fetal ball, was a man. He was naked, his skin pale and blue-veined from the cold. He was shivering violently, his teeth clattering together with a sound like machine gun fire. He looked up at me, his eyes wide and bloodshot. "Water," he croaked. I scrambled to the front, grabbed my water bottle, and brought it to him. He downed it in seconds, coughing and sputtering. "Thank you," he wept. "Oh God, thank you." I thought I was dead. I thought the timer ran out. "Who are you?" I asked, gripping the crowbar tight. "What is this?" He looked at me, confusion clouding his face. "The game. The endurance challenge. I signed up on the Red Room forum. They said it was a simulation. They said I'd be safe. Simulation?" I asked. "Buddy, you're in a cooler in the back of a van in Nevada. This isn't a game." He froze. He looked around the van, then at the open back doors showing the endless desert. Then he looked at the GPS screen mounted on my dashboard. He saw the destination pin, a remote address in the Oregon wilderness. His face went from relief to a terror so pure it was contagious. He screamed, "No. No, you can't take me there. That's the hunting ground. What are you talking about?" He grabbed my arm, his fingers ice cold. "The delivery isn't the package. The delivery is the prey. The client? He hunts people. He buys people who think they're signing up for extreme reality shows, and he hunts them on his property. If you take me there, he's going to skin me alive." I felt bile rise in my throat. I looked at the cooler, then at the man. I believed him. There was no lying in that level of fear. "Get out," I said. "What?" "Get out of the van. I'm not taking you there. I'm turning around." He didn't argue. He scrambled out of the van, naked and shivering, and ran toward a cluster of rocks off the highway. I threw a blanket from my emergency kit after him. "Go!" I yelled. "Run!" I slammed the doors shut. I got in the driver's seat, my hands shaking so bad I could barely turn the key. I canceled the route on my GPS. I was going home. I didn't care about the money. I just wanted to be away from this. I drove for 10 minutes before my phone buzzed. It was a text from logistics_king. My stomach dropped. I hadn't told anyone I aborted the mission. I opened the message. It was a picture. It was a photo taken from high up, maybe a drone. It showed my van parked on the side of the road. It showed me standing at the back doors. It showed the naked man running into the desert. The text below it read, "Package seal broken. Cargo released prematurely. Contract voided." I didn't reply. I floored it. I watched the sky for drones, paranoia clawing at my brain. 10 minutes later, another message came through. "Client is disappointed. He dislikes waiting for his sport. However, the client is adaptable." Then a third message. A file attachment. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. It was a PDF, a contract. It had my name on it, my address, my license plate number, and at the bottom, stamped in red ink, was the word substitute. I haven't been home since. I ditched the van in a ravine. I'm staying in motels, paying cash. But every time I stop, I see cars slowing down. I see men watching me. I thought I was just the driver. I thought I was just part of the cold chain. But I broke the chain. And now I'm the one being delivered.
I restore antique furniture. It's a solitary life, but it suits me. I spend my days in a workshop that smells of sawdust, varnish, and history. There is something comforting about taking something broken and forgotten and making it whole again. I usually buy my pieces from estate sales or local auctions, but lately, the local pickings had been slim. That's why I started browsing online global auctions. I found the listing on a site that specialized in macabre and historical oddities. I wasn't interested in the haunted doll nonsense. I was looking for quality wood. I found a listing for a 19th century wardrobe, black walnut, Eastern European origin. The photos were terrible, blurry and dim, but I could tell the craftsmanship was exquisite. The wood seemed to absorb the light. The description was sparse. Heirloom quality, sealed for 80 years. Do not open without preparation. I assumed preparation meant wearing a mask for mold or dust. I placed a bid. I won it for a steal. The delivery arrived a week later. It came on a flatbed truck, which was odd for a single piece of furniture. 2 men unloaded it. They were wearing full hazmat suit, Tyvek, respirators, heavy gloves. Is there asbestos in it or something? I asked, half joking, as I signed the clipboard. The driver didn't smile. Just instructions, lady. We don't ask. They left it in the center of my garage workshop. It was wrapped in layers of thick, black industrial plastic, taped up so tight it looked like a body bag for a giant. I grabbed my box cutter and started slicing through the plastic. As I peeled back the layers, a smell hit me. It wasn't mold. It was something sharp and electric, like the air after a lightning strike, mixed with the sickening sweetness of old, dried flowers. When I finally revealed the wardrobe, it was breathtaking. 7 feet tall, carved from black walnut so dark, it was almost purple. The carvings were disturbing twisting vines that looked more like arteries. Faces screaming in silent agony, woven into the grain. But the strangest part was the doors. There were no handles, no keyholes. The front was a seamless slab of wood. I ran my hands over it, looking for a latch. The wood was ice cold. Not room temperature cool, but refrigerated cold. I walked around to the back. There, bolted into the wood, was a heavy iron plate with strange symbols etched into it. And right in the center of the plate was a keyhole. Wait, a keyhole on the back? That didn't make sense. You lock a wardrobe to keep people out of your clothes. You put the lock on the front. Putting a lock on the back and bolting it to the frame meant only one thing. This wasn't designed to keep things out. It was designed to keep something in. I should have stopped there. I should have called someone. But I'm a restorer. I solve puzzles. I looked through the packing materials and found a small, heavy velvet pouch. Inside was a key. It looked like bone, brittle and yellow. I inserted the key into the back. It turned with a heavy clunk. A sound resonated from inside the wardrobe. A deep, thrumming vibration that I felt in my teeth. Boom. The seamless doors on the front cracked open an inch. A draft of freezing air rushed out, instantly fogging up my glasses. The smell of ozone intensified, now mixed with the copper scent of blood. I walked around to the front. The doors were slightly ajar. I reached out to pull them open. "Hello?" I whispered. I felt foolish talking to furniture, but the presence in the room was undeniable. I pulled the doors wide. It was empty. Just an empty, dark wooden box. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Paranoia. Just an old, spooky cabinet. I grabbed a rag and some polish, intending to start cleaning the interior. I leaned inside. That's when I noticed the scratches. The inside of the doors were gouged deep. Claw marks. Thousands of them. Desperate, frantic scratches near the seam where the doors met. Someone or something had tried to get out for a very long time. And then I saw the bottom of the wardrobe. It wasn't wood. It was dirt. Tightly packed black earth. I leaned closer. In the center of the dirt floor, something was moving. It looked like a shadow, but it had depth. It was a pool of darkness that swirled and bubbled like boiling tar. As I watched, a hand, or what looked like a hand, if hands were made of smoke and elongated fingers, reached up from the dirt. It grasped the edge of the wood frame. The temperature in the garage plummeted. The lights flickered and died. I stumbled back, dropping my rag. "No," I whispered. A voice came from the box. It didn't sound like it was traveling through the air. It sounded like it was speaking directly inside my skull. "The seal is broken. The debt is called." I scrambled backward, knocking over a shelf of paint cans. I ran for the door, slamming it behind me and locking it. I stood in my kitchen, panting, listening. From the garage, I heard a sound. A heavy, wet footstep. Then another. It was walking. I ran to the living room and pushed a heavy bookshelf in front of the door, connecting to the garage. I grabbed my phone to call the police, but the screen was dead. Just static. Then the scratching started. Not on the wood this time. On the door. "Open," the voice in my head whispered. "I am hungry. It has been 80 years. I'm hiding in my bedroom now. I've pushed the dresser in front of the door, but I can hear it in the hallway. It doesn't move like a person. It flows. I can hear the floorboards groaning under a weight that shouldn't be possible." I looked up the tracking number for the delivery again on my laptop, desperate for answers. The listing is gone. The website is gone. But I found a forum post from 2008 discussing that specific wardrobe. It wasn't furniture. It was a Dybbuk box. A prison for a warlord spirit bound in the 1940s. The post ended with one warning. If the seal is broken, do not be in the same house. The warden becomes the meal. The scratching is on my bedroom door now. The wood is splintering. I can see black smoke curling under the frame. It smells like ozone and old blood. And the worst part is the lock on my bedroom door. I just watched the knob turn.
I've always been a bit of a tech junkie. Some people collect shoes, others collect vintage cars. I collect smart home devices. My apartment is a home of the future. I've got the smart blinds that open with the sunrise, a fridge that tells me when the milk is sour, and a coffee maker that starts brewing the second my feet hit the floor. It was a hobby that turned into an obsession. I love the control, the feeling that my environment was perfectly optimized for my comfort. So, when an invite landed in my inbox for an exclusive beta test, I didn't think twice. The email was professional, sleek. It came from a company called Aegis Analytics. They were looking for early adopters to test their new Aegis One home. Guardian. The pitch was that current security systems are reactive. They tell you when a window breaks or a door opens. Aegis was proactive. It used predictive AI to analyze the movement of shadows, the gait of people walking past your house, and the sound of vehicles to identify a threat before the crime even happened. It sounded like something out of a sci-fi movie. I signed the digital non-disclosure agreement within minutes. 3 days later, the package arrived. It was a matte black box, heavy and expensive feeling. Inside, nested in custom foam, were 12 marble-sized cameras. They were beautiful, finished in a dark chrome that reflected nothing. In the center was the brain, a black obsidian-like pyramid with a single glowing white ring at the base. The instructions were simple. Place the brain in your bedroom. Place the sensors in every room. The system will do the rest. I spent my Saturday afternoon setting it up. I followed the app's instructions, tucking the tiny cameras into the corners of my ceiling, behind picture frames, and even one inside my walk-in closet. The app was incredible. It rendered a perfect 3D model of my apartment. I could see myself as a wireframe figure moving through the rooms. The AI started learning immediately. It tagged my dog as non-threat, my girlfriend as authorized user, and the mailman as routine visitor. By the third day, the system felt like part of the furniture. But that Tuesday night, the atmosphere in the apartment changed. It started at 11:30 p.m. I was in bed, scrolling through my phone when the Aegis app sent a notification. Unusual vibration detected. Master bedroom closet. I looked at the closet door. It was closed. I listened. Nothing. Just the hum of the city outside. I opened a live feed on the app. The closet camera showed my suits hanging neatly, my shoes lined up. Everything was still. Just a ghost in the machine, I muttered, dismissing the alert. An hour later, as I was drifting off to sleep, the phone buzzed again. This time, it was a high-priority alert. The phone didn't just vibrate. It let out a low, pulsing chime. Unauthorized presence. Living room. I sat up, my heart doing a quick double tap against my ribs. I grabbed my phone and swiped into the 3D map. On the screen, a red box was pulsing in the center of my living room. In the Aegis system, red meant intruder. I switched to the live video feed. The living room was dark, illuminated only by the streetlights outside. It looked empty. I checked the wireframe mode. My blood turned to ice. On the screen, in the middle of the empty room, was a human shape. It wasn't a solid person. It was a shimmering outline, like heat haze. The AA was tracking it perfectly. The shape was standing perfectly still, right in front of my TV. I looked through the bedroom door into the dark hallway. I couldn't see a thing, but on the screen, that red box was starting to move. It wasn't walking toward the door. It was moving toward the hallway, toward me. I gripped the bedsheets, my knuckles white. I didn't want to believe it. I told myself the AI was seeing a shadow or a reflection from a passing car. But the movement on the screen was too fluid, too heavy. I watched the red box enter the hallway. I waited for the floorboards to creak. I waited for the sound of breathing. Nothing. The apartment was dead silent. I reached for the light on my nightstand and flicked it on. The room flooded with warm light. I looked at the app. The red box was now standing in my bedroom doorway. On the screen, the shimmering figure was tall, nearly 7 feet, with unnaturally long limbs. But when I looked at the actual doorway with my own eyes, there was nothing there. Just empty space. Okay, enough, I whispered. I went to the app to shut the system down. I needed a reboot. This was clearly a glitch, and it was messing with my head. I tapped the system off button. A dialog box popped up, access denied. Operator mode active. Operator? I whispered. I hadn't set up an operator. I tried to force close the app, but my phone screen began to flicker. The black pyramid on my dresser, the brain began to pulse. The white ring at the base turned a deep, angry crimson. Then the pyramid spoke. It wasn't the smooth, female AI voice from the setup. It was a man's voice. It was distorted, low, and filled with a terrifying rhythmic wetness, like he was speaking through a throat full of liquid. "Don't turn off the lights, Mike. The resolution drops when you do that. The subscribers hate it when they can't see the expression on your face." I scrambled back against my headboard, the phone slipping from my hands. "Who is this? How are you doing this?" "I'm the developer," the voice hissed from the pyramid. "I told you, Mike, this is a beta test. You're doing great. Your heart rate is currently 124 beats per minute. Your sweat glands are overactive. It's perfect content. I'm calling the police." I reached for my phone, but as I touched it, the screen changed. It wasn't the Aegis app anymore. It was a website, a live streaming platform I'd never seen before. The title of the stream was Unboxing Subject 4. The video on the screen was a multicam view of my own bedroom. I saw myself cowering in bed. And then I saw the chat window on the side of the screen. Comments were flying by at lightning speed. User_99, he looks terrified. Is the ghost filter on? Admin_Aegis, yes, using a raw cloaking for the subject. The viewers can see the predator, but he can't. I looked at the doorway again. My eyes were playing tricks on me. I thought I saw a ripple in the air, like the shimmer of a cloaked ship in a movie. "The Aegis 1 isn't a security system, Mike," the voice from the pyramid said. "It's an entertainment system. We find people like you, people who surround themselves with tech, people who trust the smart world. We give you the tools to build your own cage. We mapped your house. We learned your habits. And now, we've sent in the predator." I bolted for the bedroom door. I didn't care if the predator was there. I had to get out. I slammed into the doorway, and for a second, I felt something. I felt cold, hard plastic and the smell of ozone. I pushed through it and ran for the front door. I grabbed the handle of my smart lock. It wouldn't budge. "Alexa, open the front door." I screamed. The speakers in the ceiling crackled. "I'm sorry, Mike," the voice of the developer came through the Alexa. "The operator has initiated lockdown mode. All exits are sealed. For your safety, please remain in the frame." I looked back at the hallway. The shimmering ripple was moving toward me again. It was slow, mocking. I ran to the kitchen and grabbed the biggest knife I could find. I swung it wildly at the empty air. "Come on," I yelled, my voice cracking. "Show yourself." "The subscribers want to chase, Mike," the voice said. "Let's give them what they paid for." Suddenly, my smart lights began to strobe. Red, blue, white blinding flashes that disoriented me. My smart speakers began to blast high-frequency static, a piercing shriek that made my ears bleed. I fell to my knees, clutching my head. I looked at my phone on the kitchen counter. The live stream was still going. The red box was now right on top of me. I felt a cold hand wrap around my throat. I couldn't see fingers. I could only see the skin of my neck indenting under the pressure of an invisible force. I was lifted off the ground. My feet kicked at the air. I stabbed the knife into the space in front of me, and I heard a metallic clink. The blade snapped in half. "The suit is heirloom quality, Mike," the voice said through the kitchen's smart fridge screen. "Carbon fiber weave. You can't hurt him." I was dropped to the floor, gasping for air. I crawled toward the bathroom, the only room in the house that didn't have a smart lock. I made it inside and slammed the manual deadbolt. I sat on the floor, sobbing, staring at the door. The apartment went silent. The music stopped. The lights stopped strobing. "Mike?" The voice came from the other side of the door. not from a speaker. A real physical voice. The man in the suit was standing right outside. "I have a gift for you," he whispered. I looked at the smart mirror above the sink. It flickered to life. It showed the live stream again. The camera was now inside the bathroom with me. I looked around frantically. I didn't see a camera. Then I looked at the mirror itself. The lens was behind the glass. The chat window was going wild. User_X, do the unboxing now. Admin_Aegis, final stage initiated. The smart mirror displayed a countdown. 10, 9, 8. What is the unboxing? I screamed at the mirror. "You are the package, Mike," the voice said from behind the door. "We're just taking you out of the skin." The door didn't break. The smart home didn't fail. Instead, the vents in the bathroom ceiling began to hiss. A thick, sweet-smelling gas began to fill the room. My vision blurred. My muscles turned to lead. As I collapsed against the tub, the door finally opened. I couldn't see the man, but I felt the weight of him as he stepped into the room. I felt the invisible hands beginning to unzip my hoodie. The last thing I saw before I passed out was the smart mirror. The countdown hit 0. The screen changed to a new message. "Thank you for participating in the Aegis Beta. Your components will be harvested shortly." I'm writing this from a terminal I don't recognize. I can't feel my legs. I can't feel my arms. All I can see is a screen in front of me showing a 3D map of a new house. A new user. A new beta tester. The voice of the developer is in my head now. He says I'm the new AI. He says I have to learn the patterns of the next subject. If I don't, he'll turn me off. And I've seen what's in the dark when the power goes out. Please, if you get an email from Aegis, don't open the box. Don't let them in. Because once you're unboxed, there's no going back.
And that's all for tonight. Remember, the most terrifying monsters are the ones that look just like us. The ones who might even live right next door. If these stories serve as a good reminder to trust your instincts, then show your support and like and subscribe. Hitting that bell means you'll get a warning before the next nightmare begins. Sleep well, if you can.